Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Danny.
Fred's on there too. Hi, Fred.
Yeah. Says connecting to audio.
Yeah.
You guys all ready for the meeting?
I hope so. It's about time. We'll see how the logistics go.
Yeah. Hi, Liz.
She's not talking to anybody.
Oh. Hi, here I am. How
Hello.
unlike me to not talk to anybody, huh?
Now, are you out in Colorado still?
I am, as you can see by the
Nice.
the condo decor.
That gave it away.
Yeah,
The
it
skis.
it came furnished, so these aren't necessarily ours, but it definitely screams Colorado. So
Yes, it does.
yep, we'll be back in October.
Well, that's a better time than coming back than August.
My gosh.
Yeah.
I have to say, listening to the weather and everything, we've not missed the 90 degrees with 88% humidity. Yuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's 90 here, but there's no humidity.
Yeah. It's been, the last few days have been nice. It's really
Oh, good.
been, it broke and been pretty good. But
And I've heard that our yard is not completely dead. It's been a brutal summer for everybody's yard.
oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, everybody's is, I think.
Phew.
Some of us appreciate that. Except some of the weeds did grow.
I wish it could be selective and then just the weeds would die off.
Right. Well, I just hand water, so far that's basically what's happened. The yard is gone. There's nothing that's there, but at least the plants we want to keep going have been.
Yep, I'm doing the same thing. That just trying to keep the delicate things alive, the ones that the grass crunches underfoot.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
It's been
Thank
tough.
you.
It's been tough for gardening too.
Yeah. They say we may get some rain tonight, so that would
We
be-
had
Wow.
18 raindrops as I was driving back from the sanctuary just 10 minutes ago. 18 raindrops.
I know it's really not been much. Now, have you had, Liz, if one of the kids in the Boulder area said they had tons of rain?
Yeah,
A lot of
it's
rain too.
yeah, we're under a flash flood watch just because the ground gets so dry here. It just doesn't really have anywhere to go. And there's a lot of burn scars, especially up in the mountains from the forest fires
Yeah.
over the past 2 years. And it's raining now. It's very New England at the moment. It's been gray all day, which is really unusual here. Like the sun literally comes out every day.
Yeah.
And for the past couple of weeks, it's been, rain in the afternoon, a couple of thunderstorms, and then it's over and it's dry 20 minutes later. But it's been raining since yesterday. I guess some places got almost an inch yesterday, which
Oh,
was
wow.
a
That would
big
be
deal.
nice.
I know, we could use
Yeah.
that, I'll tell you.
Yeah, they need it here so badly. The rivers are really, are not great, and they've put a mandatory pause on fishing because the water's so warm, because it's so low. So they don't want to stress the fish out because it's usually catch and release.
Yeah.
So so there's no fishing for a lot of people, and the river rafting is a little down. But right now, tomorrow's going to be so green everywhere just from a day of rain. It's kind of amazing how
Yeah.
colorful and green it gets immediately.
Yeah, my sister is out in New Mexico, Arizona, the
Mhm.
Chiricahua Mountains, and she
Mhm.
sent pictures. It is not anything I've ever seen in Arizona. It's a blanket of green. They've been having monsoon.
Yeah, that's what they call it here. The monsoonal flow is what technically they call the rain here, because it comes through in August, late
Mhm.
July and August.
Liz, what town are you in?
Tom is joining. John
I'm
was
sorry?
gonna come in by phone because his computer was running. Can you hear us, John?
I can't hear actually what you're doing. I'll try it this is a new computer got today, and clearly it's not happy.
Hmm.
You're really cracking up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anybody hear me?
yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
that Vermont signal is making it down. How's your arm, Tom?
Well, it's a ball.
Oh, that looks serious.
Well, wrist and scaphoid bone and who knows what else.
Oh, oh no.
You have a tumble?
But yeah, I fell off a ladder about 5 feet, and that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
sure I'd last 5 feet.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's been about 3 weeks, and I think we're gonna be okay.
Let's hope so.
But I can't paddleboard, kayak, swim, or any of that good stuff.
Well, Mike misses you on the trail, Pat.
Oh, the Friday. Yeah. Okay, well, we have a quorum. Lynn's on her way to Connecticut, so she's not going to be here.
Okay.
So when we open the meeting, you're okay to take the notes?
Yep.
Peggy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a broken arm.
I'll tell you, it would be my right arm.
Okay.
But I'm
Yeah.
learning how to eat left-handed, and that part works. Hold a beer can
All the important things.
The basics. Okay, nobody here.
what
so
else
no
do you need?
Public comment. The agenda, any corrections or additions to the agenda?
Yep.
I'm gonna speak, I don't know if this has to, gonna do it in the chair's note, the note that we sent to select board, and so there's some things in there that are new, I guess, but I'll put them there. Okay, all in favor of
Aye.
supporting it?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so the
You know-
minutes
you know-
of the May and, but
You notice that John disappeared?
Again. Yeah.
oh gee. Yeah, he's having a hard time with that. Wait a minute. Oh, I see. I'm gonna readmit him. Thanks, Denny. Hi, John.
He's silent.
Yeah.
I am
It's
There he
like-
is.
in hiding.
Oh, hey,
That's-
Much
This sounds
clearer.
much better. Yeah.
much clearer.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I can't get the video to work, but you know,
We've
This will
seen
do.
you. We've seen you.
yeah, I'll take that in the
Okay.
best sort.
Okay, and if we're asking for a vote, you can't raise your hand, obviously, so.
I'll just say yay or nay.
Yea or nay. Okay, so the next is to approve the minutes of May and June. Again, Peggy had done May, but we didn't have a chance to look at it during the last meeting, and Tom did June. Any corrections, additions to those minutes?
I did not review June, but I don't count.
I would be interested in some clarification about June, but when the speaker does their reports, I might ask some questions for clarification.
Okay.
One in particular, Fred's update on the CPC on the June minutes. I didn't really understand how that was summarized, but I also wasn't at the meeting, so just when we get, I can ask Fred when we get there.
Yeah, well, why don't we do it like that? That's a good idea.
Okay,
Go
okay.
through. Okay, move to accept.
I move that we accept the minutes of May and June.
Okay, second.
Second.
Anybody, all in favor?
I,
Okay, anybody opposed? No, so that's accepted. Okay, so for the chair's report, I'm going to read and I know I sent it out to you guys, but this is something I obviously did on my own, but it's only suggestions. We're not making to the board and to Mr. Waldo. There was an independent article that came out last week that I hope people saw, that basically the dredging was not going to start on time because there was an issue of mitigation. The town either has to pay $14+ million or to give some property, put land into conservation as a way of mitigating. So what's happening, well, so I'll read my note for that and then we'll go from there. The Indian Neck property, I said I had some number of suggestions. The Indian Neck property 28239 is a 12.56 acre lowlands property abutting Chipman's Cove and near the harbor. I believe it is of high conservation value. When Open Space presented this parcel to the select board with two other properties, map 28, 80, and 82, 2 years ago, the select board refused to forward the transfer request to the town meeting because of possible future access issues. I do not believe that the 139 parcel alone would impact access. And just to explain what I was saying there, if you look at the map, I think you'll see what both, all three shellfishing related people were concerned about was the road cuts over to the west side there. And 80 and 82 abut that road. And they're saying, if we put this into conservation, it may be more difficult to move the road if there's a need to do that. What I'm saying is that, okay, skip those two, the bigger area is 139. And if you look at it, that's significantly to the east. And I don't believe impacts on the access out there at all. Just to say with that, so I've had contact. People get Ryan's notes too with a.
Yes, yeah, we'll
Okay.
just,
So basically, just to put it on the record here. So basically what he's saying is there's a proposal that's out there, and what they've done is to take our, the properties that we were able to get into conservation and to give those to the Army Corps of Engineers. And he said, before doing anything else, let's see what they have to say. So that's reasonable. And but I think it's a potential opportunity for us because the town needs this mitigation. I respect their what they're saying about the access, but I just believe 139 is, or 239 is just a wonderful piece of property. I don't believe that impacts access. And so it's an opportune time to make that known. It's a big piece of property. And so if the Army Corps is looking for more, that would be an opportunity for us.
Bruce,
Bruce, oh, Denny was first, but
yeah, do you have, can you tell us what the Army Corps is looking for and what the town is looking for?
Well, my understanding, and this is just from the from Ryan's response and from the article, was that they're looking for the for land to go into conservation. So in other words, what they're doing is they are disturbing the environment out there. I think people saw that that was not considered a re-up on the dredging. It's considered new dredging because it hasn't been done since 1959. If it's new dredging, then the town needs to put some land into conservation or pay as a way to mitigate.
And probably about 10 years ago, we went through this process. And the Army Corps and the town were looking for some whatever you want to call it, payback type conservation lands.
Right.
And that's when we started looking around on Lieutenant Island. So those parcels that were there, and we'd never got a clear answer, but we decided that it was nice to put some of those parcels into conservation. So how much land are they looking for?
Well,
What counts?
right. And so that I don't know, and I don't think Ryan even knows. I think that, they're saying we want this mitigation. They're talking about for money. They're talking over $14 million. So a lot of money. So I'd be surprised if what we've done in the past 10 years, but is going to meet their needs. But I don't think it's known from our side what their needs are. What things are right now, as I understand from Ryan, is that there's a proposal being made. We'll see what the Army Corps of Engineers says about the proposal. And then if they're looking for more, I'm suggesting, and I really feel like it's a great opportunity for that significant piece of property to go into conservation. We can try to get it in some other time, but 2 out of the 3 people who voted not only against it, but to refuse to let us bring it to town meeting are still selectmen. And so I think it's a sell that is a tough one, but this is a great opportunity.
I understand the 14 million, but that is really a fuzzy number.
Yeah.
I could give you all sorts of feelings about assessors, not assessors, appraisers. So I'm curious what the physical makeup of the lands, the compensation lands are going to be. And if they're going to continue to talk 14 million, we got to get them off of that, or get some surrogate or some way to value properties, because
that property is not worth 14 million.
No, but what he's doing, in other words, it's not just that property. Basically, he's saying the last 10 years, we put the right across from here, that beach is 7 acres. The Audubon is 5 acres. Not all of that, plus this, I'm not convinced it's 14. I'm not sure, though, that they're looking for that's an exact number. In other words, if you came up with a good faith effort, would they say that's enough, or so I don't know.
You're going to be talking acreage, whereas they're talking value.
Right. No, I understand.
There's a disconnect there.
If they're sticking with the 14 million and they want an equivalent amount of land, it's going to be a tough one for the town. So we'll see where that goes. But I do think there are in our interest to take a look at what's around, and if there's anything that we think should go into conservation, to have that ready. The other thing that I tried to make clear to Ryan is that if he wants us to move on these properties, as everybody knows, the process is a long one. It has to go. I have to get an appointment with the Conservation Commission to begin with, and make sure they're on board with all this, and then it has to go to Rebecca, who sends it out to all the committees, etc. So that it's invariably a long process, and it's something we'd like to get going, and that's one of the reasons I appreciate everybody coming, that I wanted to get this meeting going so that we could sort of plan ahead and look at what's out there.
And I thought you were very responsive in your, I am very glad you took the initiative to respond as soon as you read the article, and that you mentioned all these properties, because it does seem like if it's not an opportunity for action, it's at least an opportunity to remind them that we exist and we are trying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I do think, as Denny's saying, they're looking for a large amount, then this is a great opportunity for us to kind of say, okay, let's see what's out there and what else is on our list. So we'll see where it goes.
What are the criteria? Does it have to be land that is not yet in conservation?
Ryan's not treating it that way. And in other words, what they're saying, and they're a little annoyed with reason. I think the town is a little annoyed that, the Mayo Creek property they're looking at, as you know, for restoration, and Herring River is moving forward. And what they're saying about Herring River is they're really saying that it's a federal and state, kind of process, not state, but the Herring River Committee and the
Yeah,
National Park Service.
Seashore.
and that National Seashore, and they're not giving town credit. And I think they're right with that, but and that would be a big one. But anyway, that's where else it's going, I don't know. Ryan's presenting, as I said before, the last 10 years of all these properties that we got into conservation. There's a lot of acreage, but as you say, that's not. Those aren't $14 million worth of properties. So
Do we know who the decision makers are with the Army Corps, and are there specific individuals, a committee, or I mean, it's all so vague.
Right.
They're coming up with.
I don't. I'm I'm the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator moving forward on this, and we can do it differently. It's one of the reasons I brought it up. But my position has been, if this isn't working, this is a great opportunity for us to bring forward our our thoughts.
Sure.
And look around. But anyway, the last thing, and so one of the things that's coming up that was irrespective of this is that we had 4 properties, 400, 505 on map 29, and 288 and 289 on map 36. The one is the first one is on Payne Hollow Road. One of them is a slam dunk, I think. It abuts all kinds of other conservation properties. It's mostly lowlands, if not all lowlands. The other one has been used by cars, and that has been an issue in terms of access. Are they going to say, listen, we can't do that for that? But in either case, well, and then the other one is off Bond Road, and the Conservation Trust, and I understand that may come up sooner than we thought, Denny, right? With is getting 2 pieces of property out there, and these are those properties.
We have one, and we're going to get the other one this year.
Get the other by October, or?
Well, that's the thought, but
Okay.
Nothing's working on time.
Okay. So these 2 properties are abut those. They're on the marsh. They're all the things that they're supposed to be. It's not their relatively small properties, but I just think if we're going to act on all this stuff, we have to go out, and I don't think August is a great time to do it when out here everybody is around, et cetera. But after Labor Day, soon, I would strongly urge, I'd like to put out some times and go out and check all these properties. And if anybody has any other ideas about what to do, I mean, the town really may be actively looking for other things to put into conservation.
Do we have a description from the Army Corps of what they're looking for?
No, you think I should, I can pass that by the select board and,
Yeah.
see, but that's not a bad idea.
It seems like that should be a public document, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes,
maybe.
it should. Well,
Yeah. Yeah,
There should be some correspondence somewhere on it. But
right. The last thing I wanted to bring up, and it's, at one level it's terrific, but not as done as smoothly as one would like, is the select board at their May 24th meeting accepted properties over on Blue Heron, and there are 3 properties that are along the north side of Blue Heron Road. And there's a marsh, if people remember the marsh at the bottom of the
South side, Bruce.
Okay, I said it backwards, right? The marsh at the bottom of the Bayberry Trail that we put into conservation 137. What was
Yeah, what map is this, please?
These ones over there are all map 42. I can't remember very frankly whether the one we put, 137, was 42 or 41.
It was right on the borderline.
Right on the border. I
Yeah,
forget
right. in the middle.
which one it was. But anyway, let me just to go on a little bit. So the good news with this is that the town lawyer has told the administrator and select board that we are free to accept, we being the town, are free to accept property to put into conservation from citizens, from developers, from whoever. And so these properties, these 4 properties, and I'm not sure about that private, I think there could be problems with that, you know, the boat ramp, not the boat ramp, the public access. supposedly.
Public landing, yeah.
Yeah, landing. But anyway,
I don't know that that was in the package.
yeah, I would guess not. But anyway, those are about 2 acres are right by a really overgrown kind of marsh, but are marshlands. And the other is really a beautiful area, 3.3 acres. And the one 132 is right next to 137. The problem that Denny alerted me to was that on one of the parcels, 127, there is a structure, and we're not talking a structure like, you know, somebody's small shed. I mean, we're talking a good sized structure out there. And so there are a couple of things with that. I wrote that in my note to Ryan. I'm not sure whether a site visit was done and they just didn't think it was necessary to include this, but they did not include Hillary. Forget about skipping the Open Space Committee. They didn't contact the Conservation Commission to ask whether they wanted to take these properties, you know, and I would rather Hillary fight that fight, but I'm happy to do it too. When I started in the know, I mean, this is just crazy. I mean, I'm delighted that the property was taken. It's about 5, even over 5 acres. So it's a nice piece of property. But, you know, the people know from the Agra property that was refused by the Conservation Commission, and because it had a structure on it. And what's the plan to remove that structure? And, you know, again, in talking to Hillary, she had no idea that they had done this. So it needs some work out front. So, but the good news.
So at this stage, the town has accepted the land. The
town
question is whether the land can be put into conservation,
Well, the tricky thing is that they accepted it, and I'm not sure, I have not seen what the deed says, but the way it's written is accepting it into conservation. That's the way it's written. Now, the way I wrote it to him was trying to finesse it a little bit. And it said, I'd note on parcel 27 is a structure, which I assume the town's planning to remove. Accepted a donation of land to be used for conservation. So, and I'm not sure, my understanding is that may even be in the deed, but I have not seen the deed. I'm not sure what's going on with that. The good news for us is that, you know, rarely, but occasionally somebody calls with some marsh property or something, and I've assumed it needs to go to town meeting. So I've said, listen, if that sounds like more than you want to do, you might talk with Denny. And so if somebody comes and says, boy, you know, I'd like to give the town this without going through town meeting, et cetera, we can do it. We need to do a much better job. We being the town needs to do a much better job of vetting these properties and making sure that people who need to be contacted, especially Hillary and the Conservation Commission, are involved. We can,
Truth be-
we're
truth
an
be
advisory
told,
committee, we can tell them, but that's just, anyway.
truth be told, the parcels along Blue Heron were offered to WCT. And a couple of us went out there and inspected them and found the structure that's there and said we really didn't have any interest because the structure is a rat trap. And also probably every raccoon and rat and everybody else lives in that area. And it's very unstable and very unsafe. And it's definitely a target for, I'll do my gender thing, but young boys would love to go look in that place. So it's a danger. That's why we didn't take it.
So, again, Ryan didn't respond to that part of things in my note, but we need to follow up with that. And I did let Hillary know what's going on, and I included her in the note. So we'll move forward. I think, again, there are some nice pieces of property minus the structure, but I think the town has to figure out some way to remove that, obviously. The Conservation Trust over at the head of Duck Creek did that, removed the structures that were over there, and it's a wonderful area at this point. So I hopefully that's something that we're working on, but all of this is relatively new.
So it's not a 10 by 10 foot shed. It's a,
It is not. I would say.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Danny. You can.
I would guess it's in the range of 15 by 30, but
Wow.
it's concrete block and brickwork with lots of holes in it. And
Great.
And really, the picture of people saw Denny got from, I took some pictures, but it was really overgrown right now. Those pictures from when the leaves were down, you really get a picture of the inside, which is just a disaster. So it's, it's something that can't stay there. And I will contact Hillary and see how to move forward with this, how she wants to move forward with it. All right. Anything, John, from Vice Chair?
I don't have anything this month.
Okay. Property management, Fred?
No, nothing. Haven't been active. Haven't done anything.
Got to see how the AmeriCorps member was going to try to set up those the new books. So it'll be interesting to see where that went. Okay, Lynn's not here. Anything on the trail guides, Denny, you want to?
No, I just haven't had time to get to it, and I suspect Lynn's in the same boat. But as soon as we can get together and agree what they ought to say, we'll do that.
Okay. Community outreach, Peggy?
I don't know if you covered this at the last meeting when I wasn't here, but Denny and I did present in-class lessons to the grade 4th and 5th grade students, the grade 4, anyway, those 2 grades at the elementary school, and then also took them for walks at Fox Island Marsh, and those went very, very well. And then the day that Bob and I were going to present to the grade 3 classroom, Bob called the night before that the person who had driven him out to Williamstown that weekend had called to tell him he had tested positive for COVID. So Bob did not come at the last minute. So I had both 3rd grade classrooms, and that worked fine, as it turns out. And one of the things that really impressed me, and Denny is used to this because he's worked with the schools for so many years, but the kids in Wellfleet are so knowledgeable about our ecology, about what makes Wellfleet special, about why salt marshes are important. I was very, very impressed. And a number of them pointed out that, well, my dad's a shell fisherman. You know, they were very proud of that. And, you know, that was the reason they were so knowledgeable in terms of, I mean, they kind of explained in terms of their being able to answer questions that Denny and I posed to them. The third grade teachers could not get together to get the trail walk in time before the end of the year. So we did not have that experience, but the trail walk went very well, I thought, with both of the upper grades. Denny, you want to add?
I would only add that I give a lot of credit for what's going on in terms of the awareness of the kids to the Audubon Society. The few classes that they have over there really have been effective.
And I'll show you, we got letters, and Denny, I still need to get these to you. This was the fifth grade teacher whom we love. So they made cards, all of the kids made cards. Thank you for the beautiful tour. This one, a picture of trees, and the note inside says Denny and Peggy. And I just want to say, coming from the South, I was shocked that I was not Miss Peggy and Denny wasn't Mr. But anyway, dear Dennis and Peggy, thank you for showing the cool trail and teaching me about diamondback turtles. And also, thank you for showing us landmarks. All the best, Adrian. But anyway, they're all these, you know.
Yeah,
Great.
it sounds wonderful. It really, it's a great opportunity. Audubon does lots and lots, but it certainly is a way for us to connect with the school and the kids and all that as well. And I think you can't do too much for the kids with this stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing, just to mention.
Peggy?
Yep, Dennis.
If you would like to store those in your house, I don't need them.
The letters. I didn't know if you wanted to show them at the annual meeting tomorrow.
Oh, no, there's a thought, but no, I don't have time for that.
I
Thank you.
figure you kind of have a lot to cover on that agenda, but
You've got the sentiment, Denny.
yes, you got it.
Right.
Yeah.
The only other thing, just very quickly, is that you have you and Denny started to talk about the story walk with Peggy?
Well, you didn't tell me who my contact was.
Oh, well, my bad. There he is.
And no one has reached out to me. So,
Okay.
but is my contact Denny?
Yep.
Okay.
And we're going to do something after Labor Day. What's her? Anna?
Yeah, at the
Nielsen.
library.
Yep. Went out and viewed a couple of story walks. And so we're talking about getting together after Labor Day.
Okay.
You
They do those.
know.
They do those a lot out here. Story walks through the library. They're really great.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds like a great thing to do. It's similar to, I mean, it's less structured than what we do with the schools, but it sounds like a wonderful thing. For Conservation Trust, I missed the last meeting, but just to remind people that the annual meeting is tomorrow out at the Yacht Club at 4
o'clock.
Yeah, 4 to 6. Also, there was some land. Do you want me to talk about that land you guys are considering, Denny, or not?
Not yet. No.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to bring up?
No, I don't think so. I mean, everybody's welcome to join the meeting tomorrow. Not necessary, but you're welcome. So appreciate the support between the two organizations.
And Friends of the Herring River, just to say, and Lynn's not here, but I saw John Portnoy brief and Lynn at the town market and the farmers market. And it looks like they're getting another big chunk of money to move forward with this. And so it really, looked very distant not that long ago, but it seems like they're doing well. The housing partnership, John?
So the two big issues going on is the 95 Lawrence Street and Maurice's. And I think the the large issue for Maurice's right now is they are going in front of the Board of Health to get a waiver on the current septic and sanitation system for the campground. They've looked at the water over the last very many years, and the water supply is actually very, very good using what they have in place. One of the issues is they have a number of cesspools which are no longer acceptable. And so it's going to fall to the Board of Health to see whether or not they want to make it more stringent or what they're going to do. And so I think that meeting is next week. I'll be at that and to listen to that. With the other property, the 95 Lawrence, they were having a series of meetings or presentations through the ZBA. And they were supposed to be either weekly or every other week, but they have sort of suspended them for a while, and I haven't been able to find out why or what's going on with that. But I'll continue to attend those as they occur. The one I sat in on before had to do with an overview of the architectural design and the landscaping. And there was some feedback from abutters and others, but I think the process is going pretty well.
The other thing I wanted to mention is just so people know, because it was something we were part of, is that they being the housing partnership is actually considered coming to open space to use some of our CPC funds because there's a wetlands over
Right.
there, another property. John and I went to the meeting with these two state administrators who I was really, really impressed with. I thought they just had a clear way. One of the things they said, why are you doing this so quickly? With a really complicated
Yes.
situation. But basically, they gave them some ideas. If you look at the town meeting, which I did send out to people to look at the article, it describes essentially what they are planning, how they're planning to fund this. Anything else, John?
Oh, so that was the
No.
point I wanted clarification on. I'm sorry, I had said I had a question for Fred, but well, anyway, it was about this
I
money
answered
from
Fred.
CPC. Yeah, so they would take money that would normally have been allocated to open space in order to offset
Correct.
costs for Maurice's.
So the thought was that, if we, and they're doing that, they're obviously going into the CPC money for housing. So they've come up with $1 million plus. So that lowers the tax cost to the town because that money comes out of CPC. And we haven't. The thought was, okay, there's open space over there as well. Could we do the same thing with some of the open space land? And getting back to what Denny was pointing out with the core, basically their response was that land, even though it may be a number of acres, is not worth anything. And you're just going to complicate the picture by trying to do this, keep it simple, find that property for the 3 acres or whatever it is now for the housing project and take the money out of that. And that it looks like that's what they've decided to do in reading over the article from the warrant. Anything else, John?
Nope.
Okay, NRAB, Tom?
The article that was supposed to have been on the spring warrant regarding the harbor survey of flora and fauna and so forth is going to be on the fall town meeting agenda or warrant. And the select board has approved that. We've discussed this before. It has to do with having someone, some requests for proposals have gone out, but to look at various fish and aquatic species, looking at the sort of repeating a study that was done several years ago, so-called Curley report. And that's going to go forward. There is I believe it's 60,000. We talked about maybe bumping that up a little bit. And again, it was assumed that maybe the town free cash would have been settled by then, and I'm not sure that it is going to be. So I guess that's still.
The free cash is not settled for this town meeting?
I don't think so.
I
That
think
was-
the Provincetown Independent reported that it will not have been certified by then, that the state is not going to certify us.
So we'll see where that goes, and that the only other thing is that there's a continued work on this pond. You know, the state of the Wellfleet ponds, and the group is working diligently at that. And the last thing is that we had some discussion last time, sort of introducing the idea of managing the upland properties that are either under conservation trust or perhaps under the CONSCOM, or maybe even a conservation trust, dealing with what should we be doing something with this land that we own other than just, you know, preventing intrusions and so forth, and looking, for example, at what's being done for bird habitats at the National Seashore and Audubon and such things. So I mean, if it's going to require some sitting down with various groups to decide if that's a priority that we want to pursue or not. So that's where we are.
I mean, you know, it's obviously a lot more work, but as you know, and you and I, Fred, were all involved with the park, with the Cut and Burn group, and they very actively and little at a time have been working on things, and it's just made a big difference. The invasives, those two properties at the end of, you know, up by Route 6 there are practically a reason not to put land into conservation. They are so overgrown with briars and invasives and et cetera. And, you know, I think it's something to look at for sure. You know,
Well, it probably wouldn't be too hard to round up some volunteers, you know, to help with such projects if a decision is made to pursue that further. So anyway.
Tom? Hey, Tom?
Yes.
There is an article in the warrant about expanding the scope of the NRAB. Can you comment on that?
Well, I think it has to do with the fact, I'm not sure that it's expanding the scope, but it had to do with, at one point, the charter of the NRAB said that we were supposed to be involved in shellfish planning and so forth. And so I think it's looking at sharing that with the Shellfish Advisory Board and not, you know, not just within the NRAB itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but it's, you know, it's basically saying that you guys ought to be involved with the water resources or whatever, which may be an expansion of your current scope. We'll see
Well,
how it goes.
yeah, I don't think we're trying to expand anything more than what we're already doing. Or maybe it has to do with, you know, us being involved with some of the other groups that are also dealing with water resources. Anyway.
Okay, well, it's in there.
Yeah.
John Real has moved. Is he still active with the committee?
He's already moved? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he moved
Yeah.
earlier this month.
Well, he's still involved in the committee, and it's like this committee, it's a little bit up in the air as to who is going to take over the chairmanship job. And it may be, let's say it's still up in the air now. So but John wants to maintain his presence on the committee as long as we can do partial Zoom meetings. I'm not sure how much longer that's gonna go on, but he, you know, he's been the mainstay of the committee, everybody knows, and he's really been a valuable asset for not only this, but the whole town. And you know, I guess he and his wife made the decision to move up there, and so that's that.
Well, it sounded to me in talking to him that he is very interested in keeping on his
Yes.
role.
Yeah. Well, I think he is, and we'll see how that's going to be able to work practically. So.
Okay, so for old business, anybody from the subcommittee want to say anything? Seems like we're on a little summer hiatus here, but
Yeah.
any comments on that? Either the survey or the 5-year plan?
I did finally hear, I sent the survey to Suzanne and to Becky. Suzanne responded very quickly, not point by point, but just said she would never support renting kayaks and she would never support anything to do with parking. I mean, it was kind of like, but she's happy to work with us. So it really wasn't very helpful. But she expressed willingness to, give us any other help we would request. Becky finally responded about 4 weeks after the deadline I gave her, and she could only do the first section. So she couldn't get to the section that was specifically targeted with recreation. And she did quote or summarize from the most recent version. I'm sorry, I don't have the name of the document with me, that has outlined, it wasn't the planning board document. It was a more updated, I think, 2021 document talking about recreation should focus on, and there were a couple of specific areas, including like a parkour, an adult fitness course, some specific items. And when I wrote her back and thanked her for her feedback, I gently mentioned that if you didn't complete the questions properly, the survey wouldn't let you go on. And that may have been why she couldn't get to the next section. But I also mentioned that of the items she had mentioned, they were all addressed in one of the questions we would be very interested in her taking a look at. And if she had time, would she please try again? So
Yeah.
I've not heard back from her, but at least I have the list of items. And as I said, it's a pretty much one-on-one with those 2 questions that we included, alternate versions of things that might be of interest to the town.
Yes, it would be good to know. I mean, it's a little, having done this, at least once or a couple of times, it would seem pretty straightforward. I think many of us had. It'd be interesting to hear why this was a problem for her, because
well, I think the main problem in terms of the survey not letting you go on, I think Fred experienced that too. If you select, for example, other as your response, the survey requires you to then explain, comment. And if you leave that comment field blank, you won't let you go on. And in the tiniest type, like 6-point type, it will show over the question that you have not answered the question fully or something. And so I was hoping to hear from more people before I contacted SurveyMonkey to find out, is there any way I can make those, error messages more noticeable? Because otherwise we're going to have people not completing the survey.
Right. No, that's what I was.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a real frustration. There's, some workarounds, but in some instances, you must require a response, or SurveyMonkey requires a response for the program to work properly. So even if we didn't want to require a response, SurveyMonkey requires it for the construction of the survey.
Okay.
So
You
that's
might
something to
have
look
to-
into.
You might have to redesign those questions.
Yeah. And Denny, you have been on my list as the next person and government or town organization that or local organization we would like feedback from. But I did realize your meeting was tomorrow. And so I decided we might wait till after your meeting, if not after Labor Day, but it would be really great for you and, people who are on the board with you that whose judgment you value, who you wouldn't feel like you're imposing too much by asking them to test it for us and give
No,
feedback.
I think the people who would do it will do it willingly.
Good, great.
Should we formally take a break for the summer, or people want to try to get together again?
For the first time, I am actually available next Thursday, so I could do it.
Liz or John?
I'm available next Thursday. It's not this week.
Yeah,
Yeah, let me check my calendar.
Okay, should we
Yeah,
tentatively set one up then? What time?
yeah, I'm available.
Okay.
and so I think your time might be more constrained than ours, Liz, just because of work.
This work thing is really overrated, I have to
What is
say.
that anyway? What is this work thing with it?
I'm sorry to bring that terrible 4-letter word into the meeting.
So we're looking at the 25th, right?
Yes, yes, I'm
Okay.
available on the 25th. And 4:30 or 5:30 your time, whatever works best for you guys.
4:30.
Yeah,
4:30.
is good for me. Oh, Fred too. Sorry, Fred.
Okay.
Okay.
Point of order.
Yeah.
You skipped CPC.
Oh, I
report.
apologize. Take it away. CPC.
Okay. Well, we had one request for the CPC funding in that early round early request that we had, and that was from the town for funds for the 3-acre property behind the store at Maurice's Campground, which would be used for affordable housing. And we voted to support it, no open space money involved, with funds from the town's receipts that make up the CPC funding, not the state funding, but the town portion, up to amount of $83,000 per year, which would be supporting the bond that would be needed to purchase that property. They were talking about $1,050,000, but I think the assessment came in at lower than that, 800 and something.
Yeah, it did.
So anyway, we voted to support that. But as I say, no open space funds are involved.
And so
So this is for affordable housing, which means 80 to 100% of median income.
So the amount ultimately would be in the 800,000, because again, the town warrant still has $1.5 million or whatever.
Well, that's what the assessment committee. So there's been some fiddling with the actual thing that's going to go before the town. But basically, we've committed up to 83,000 per year.
Okay, one thing is you're saying this, I guess, as I'm thinking about the Army Corps again. There are, a couple of properties that we've ruled out, but let's face it, for the town to spend $1 million, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but for that area over by Uncle Tim's Bridge, cheaper than spending 14 million. So, I mean, just to keep our eyes out, and I will try to talk with Ryan to see more about what they're looking for. But
the other information is that the open space fund balance, we have two estimates, one that the town accountant came up with and one that Mary Rogers came up with. And don't ask me why it's different, but the town accountants said that the open space funding balance for 2023 will be 149,993. Mary Rogers thinks it should be, by her figures, should be $119,545. So say between 120
Could you repeat what the accountant had said? I'm sorry.
$149,993.
Okay, thank you.
That's the addition to the fund.
That's a total of last year's, which we didn't spend any, and so that would be reserved for open space.
Thank you.
starting to look good.
Yeah.
Something that, or it might be useful.
Yeah. Okay. The only other thing I'd say just with the 5-year plan is Jeff Thibodeau called again and just to say, I told him before that the town was not going to, unfortunately, fund his helping us, but he said just checking in again, and I didn't re-ask the town. I think with all that's going on, the likelihood of their supporting that is zero. If we had a property, and again, this is how it can all fit together. If there's a property, there's a small town grant that we would be eligible for, and so that would potentially change. I mean, we still have to put the money out front. I'm not sure that would even do that, but anyway, just
well, I'm wondering if we should ask again. We are getting closer to having the town finances settled. We voted incredible tax increases at town meeting in the summer. So the coffers are being replenished. So we're in a better financial situation. And just given how much time it has taken us and the fact that we've lost the summer, and I have not been pushing to work on the 5-year plan this summer. I've not been here or able to attend meetings or do anything. But it just seems like if we could get approval to use some of those funds to hire Jeff Thibodeau, that would be great.
There's nothing to be lost by asking. I can certainly do that again. Just to, I think I mentioned this before, but I talked with the police chief who wanted us to get people, remember, they wanted our input, a vote on the hazard hazard mitigation plan. And what he said was the town was not even going to give any money for that until he reminded them that dredging funds, that tons of it's state funding, et cetera, was tied to this, and so they saw the wisdom of his ways and paid for somebody to do it. But it's I think like I say, I'm happy, nothing to be lost. I'm happy to do it again, but to me, that spoke volumes as
Yes.
to where things were, and we don't have the same pull.
Well, but it does, because we don't have an approved 5-year plan, there are state and, if I'm not mistaken, federal monies that the town cannot access.
That's correct.
We'll try again.
Maybe
and-
we can talk next Thursday if,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, titles, I've done nothing on those in this summer either. Access issues, none. Is anybody? Anyway, they are the last town meeting. They did put something like $3,000 into looking at that property over by the Aggers. And again, I think that's would be a win-win for us. And, you know, in other words, if that property looked like the town did have access, then for us to get an access path through the Aggers property, I think would be a good thing to do. But anyway, I don't know where that's at now. The other properties we talked about. Okay, and the only other thing was we got a message from Rebecca that the select board was considering sending liaisons out to the committees. And so I said I'd bring it up with the committee. I thought it sounded like a great idea in terms of, I think that frankly, the communication is abysmal, and the purchase of that property. And I understand they got a piece of property, et cetera, but not to involve Conscom with the property, I think is a big miss. And so, you know, whether or not there's certainly a lot on their plate, and this falls on them much more than it does us. But if they want to do it, I would say terrific. I think that's a great way to improve communication. Any other thoughts on that?
I agree.
Jenny?
I agree.
I agree, but I think you need to be somewhat selective if you can. Maybe you can't, but you know, Ryan obviously has an interest. Whether he's got time, that's a different thing.
Right.
But also the new select person, Carboni, she's got an affinity to our business.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and
Yeah,
it
the only
sounds like
concern
she,
is the amount of time that they can devote to this. So anyway.
Right.
but
Yeah,
it sounds like if it were Carboni, that she also might be able to lobby within select board on our behalf more effectively than someone who does not have that affinity.
Right.
Yep.
Sounds good. My guess is they're going to decide amongst themselves as to who's going to take one on, but certainly, I mean, it's a little tricky even to, anyway. So the only other thing I wanted to, for the visits to the properties, I'm assuming this summer, I have mixed feelings of those Bond Street properties. I think are busy out there. It might be better to wait until after the holidays. So, but I'd really like to get it going in September, because again, it takes months to transfer. I mean, the irony, you can accept a property without you know, doing any work on it, passing it by any committee, et cetera. And, you know, for these transfer properties is there's a method that's there, which is a long one. But, you know, one of the things I was thinking about with the NRAB is that although it turned out to be fine, there was concern initially that John had that the piece of property down by Bayview could, if Fresh Brook was to become Trout Brook and they open things up, that could be at least make things a little more difficult for them. And So again, if you're not asking other committees about whether they have any concerns about this, then the good news is that we end up with a good amount of, and some really nice conservation properties, but the bad news is there's a problem with it. And, anyway, I'll leave it at that. Anybody else, anything before we? So we'll figure out a time in September to check out the properties.
Okay, good.
And a move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Right?
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. See you next month.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
thank-
you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Les. Enjoy
Everybody
the
stay
weather.
healthy.
See
Yeah.
you next week.
Yeah.